When you get to be my age, you revisit your babyhood. You get a lot of shots, and I mean a lot. I've had so many shots lately that I feel like this doll. And here they are: flu, pneumonia, COVID, 2 doses, 2 boosters, shingles, 2 doses, and I had all these in a span of 18 months. I was chained to vaccines. Now, there are different reasons that I had all these shots. I've never had the flu in my life. I've heard that it's terrible, though. So, since I never had the flu, I never got a flu shot. Then I got a job in a hospital pathology lab, so it was a requirement for employment, as well as proving that I had been vaccinated for or have had MMR and chickenpox. I had all those, what we called in the olden days the childhood illnesses, so I could elect to get the shots or get titered. Since my doctor wasn't a pediatrician and didn't have the vaccines, I got titered. My immunity is still strong. I got a pneumonia shot and continued a yearly flu shot because I'm now over 65 and apparently have 1 foot in the grave. I got the COVID shot and boosters because I would rather not run up a giant hospital bill or worse, funeral costs, which would have been a real downer. I got my shingles shots because the one that I got when I turned 60, Zostavax, was not as effective as this new 2-dose one, Shingrix. I got the first shingles shot because my aunt, may she rest in peace, got shingles and was hospitalized for the first time in her life. She told me she felt like she wanted to die. Fortunately, she didn't have any lingering effects from the shingles, as many people do, and I know a few of them. I basically know how flu vaccines work. Well, sort of. All of the press from the COVID vaccine rollout made me wonder even more how they work, or if they work the same way. I decided to improve my knowledge in this area and give it a shot. You see what I did there? So you don't have to. So, how do vaccines work exactly? Before we get into that, it's valuable to understand how the immune system works. Basically, its job is to protect you against disease. Its function is to recognize bacteria and viruses not belonging in your body, respond to foreign invaders by making antibodies to destroy the bacteria or virus. You may still get a little sick, but not as severely. Your antibodies, by getting rid of those interlopers, can help you get well again. Remember the invaders for future reference, in case of another invasion by the virus, so that your immune system is ready to destroy it. This is called immunity. Vaccines give you immunity without you having to go through the hassle of getting really sick, because the vaccine makes your immune system respond to ward off the virus. One type of vaccine is the live attenuated vaccine. The word attenuated means to be made weaker. The virus is passed through a non-human host several times until it loses its ability to replicate itself. This takes about 10 years in the vaccine preparation process. Eventually, it can be used in a vaccine since it can still be recognized by the human body even though it has lost its ability to replicate itself. Because these vaccines are so similar to the natural infection that they help prevent, they create a strong and long-lasting immune response. When the vaccine is given to a human, it won't replicate itself enough to cause illness, but will still provide an immune response. Protection from a live vaccine is typically superior to a vaccine made with an inactivated virus. Examples of live attenuated vaccines are MMR, which stands for measles, mumps, rubella. This illustration shows a little nugget with measles, as well as listing the symptoms, which are fever, rash, and upper respiratory tract inflammation. When I was in elementary school, one of my classmates died of measles. Other examples are rotavirus, smallpox, which is the only communicable disease to be completely wiped out, chickenpox, and yellow fever. Another type of vaccine is the inactivated vaccine. Inactivated vaccines are vaccines that are created by using heat or chemicals on the pathogen, which destroys the pathogen's ability to replicate, but keeps it intact. It's strong enough to create an immune response, but is weak enough so that it won't cause you to get sick. The immune system can still recognize it. When you get the vaccine, your immune system releases antibodies to fight the virus. That's what those tiny little red Ys in the illustration represent. The term inactivate instead of killed is generally used because viruses aren't generally considered to be alive, as they can't reproduce on their own without the help of a host cell or produce energy from ATP. Inactivated vaccines tend to provide shorter protection time than live vaccines and typically need boosters. The benefit of these kind of vaccines are that they can be mass-produced and are relatively inexpensive to make. Examples of these type of vaccines are hepatitis A, flu, the shot only, polio, and rabies. A toxoid is a harmless form of a toxin. Some diseases are caused by a toxin produced by the bacterium itself. The vaccine neutralizes the toxin that causes the disease symptoms. This is done by treating the toxin with chemicals or by using heat. The vaccine then targets the toxin and antibodies are created to respond to the toxin. Remember that the little red Ys in the illustration are the antibodies. Examples of toxoid vaccines are diphtheria and tetanus. Subunit vaccines contain only a portion of the pathogen, not the whole organism, so they don't contain any live pathogens. Some important subunit vaccines are polysaccharide, conjugate, and protein. This illustration shows one type of subunit vaccine using proteins. A specific protein from a pathogen is presented as an antigen on its own. Since the vaccine only uses specific parts of the pathogen, they give a very strong immune response that's targeted to specific parts of the pathogen. They can also be used on people with compromised immune systems and other long-term health care problems, since they only contain a piece of the organism and can't make them sick. Like the inactivated vaccines, they may require booster shots. Examples of these type of vaccines are hepatitis B, HPV, whooping cough, pneumonia, meningitis, and shingles. Messenger RNA vaccines, or as they are known, mRNA vaccines, make proteins in order to trigger an immune response. In your body, the function of mRNA is to serve as a messenger to deliver instructions from DNA for the manufacture of proteins. The M stands for messenger. In the manufacture of the mRNA vaccine, mRNA is produced in the lab. This instruction shows the spike protein on the virus that your immune system must recognize. When the vaccine is injected, the mRNA gives the cell instructions or code to create a protein similar to the spike protein on the coronavirus surface. The protein is then released to other immune cells. The spike protein is then recognized by the body, triggering an immune response. Antibodies are then produced and bind to the virus to stop it from replicating. Look for more on mRNA in a future video. The advantage of mRNA vaccines is that they don't contain a live virus and have shorter manufacturing times. Because of COVID, you may think mRNA vaccines are a new thing, but scientists have been working on these types of vaccines for decades. The most obvious example of this type of vaccine is the COVID-19 vaccine. Viral vector vaccines are made when the genetic code from the virus, such as COVID, is inserted into an unrelated, harmless virus. Information from the genetic material is delivered, giving instructions on how to make the spike protein. Antibodies are produced, which triggers the immune response. Viral vector vaccines trigger a strong immune response. Only one dose of the shot is needed for immunity. Boosters may be needed to maintain it. Two examples of this type of vaccine are Ebola and the Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines. Vaccine efficacy or effectiveness is the percentage reduction of disease cases in a vaccinated group of people compared to an unvaccinated group of people. If someone tells you that the vaccine efficacy of vaccine X is 70%, that means that there is a 70% reduction in cases in vaccinated people compared to unvaccinated people. The term vaccine efficacy is used when a study is carried out in controlled conditions. The term vaccine effectiveness is used when they are used in a larger, more typical population under less than ideal controlled conditions. In other words, how do they work in the real world? For example, when I got my first shingles vaccine at age 60, it was the one-dose Zostavax and had an effectiveness of 51%. Then Shingrix, which required 2 doses, came along, which had an effectiveness of 97%. In addition, studies have shown that the effectiveness of Zostavax wanes over time. So at the age of 67, I got another shingles vaccine. Vaccines are always evolving. There is a lot of vaccine misinformation out there, and I will discuss 2 of them. The flu vaccine gives you the flu. It can't. Remember, the flu shot is made from an inactive virus. We learned that earlier in the video. What you may experience are flu-like symptoms, which is the reaction of your immune system to the vaccine as it works on giving you your immunity. Also, remember that it takes about 2 weeks for the flu shot to kick in, so if you're exposed to the flu virus, you may get sick then. Every year there is a different strain of flu virus circulating, so the shot you get may not match the present strain. However, the shot you get will offer some protection. Keeping up with changing flu strains is always a battle. Also, it's possible that you could have been sick with something else. Another one is, since I got the flu, shingles, COVID, MMR, whatever vaccine, I will never get sick. Remember the expression, the only thing for sure in life is death and taxes? We talked about efficacy and effectiveness previously. If there is a vaccine that has 100% effectiveness, I didn't find it when putting together this video. No doctor has ever told me that either. The flu vaccine is 50 to 60% effective in healthy adults between the ages of 18 to 64 years old. Shingrix for shingles is 97%. The Pfizer vaccine for COVID is 94% after 2 doses. I learned a lot putting together this video and put the resources I used in the description. Researchers are always looking for something better when it comes to vaccines. I'm sure they feel like they're running on a treadmill. We've only been able to completely wipe out one infectious disease worldwide, and that is smallpox, which is why those young whippersnappers don't have that vaccination scar on their arm like we old codgers do. The vaccine worked. Remember and repeat after me. I am not a doctor. My advice is, don't listen to some aging rando on YouTube. Gather information from trusted resources as well as people who are trained in the specific area you are interested in, and make well-informed, educated decisions. Work in concert with your doctor or some other trusted medical professional. They didn't get all those initials after their name from reading Facebook. My additional advice is to like and subscribe and ring that bell to show this old girl some love.